the Champions Cup round of 16 provided a very entertaining weekend of rugby. My name is Mark. Let's talk rugby. Really good weekend of rugby, as I said in the intro. I think since we changed to this format, this is probably the best round of 16 we've had, and potentially since we went to a round of 16, probably overall the best. And it's weird because there were so many high scoring games, but for me, I think for many people as well, the lowest scoring game was actually the most exciting, the one that kind of got everyone really up for the knockout stages as well. So what we're going to do in this one is normally we go through the games and we talk, a bit about each of them. We won't go that much into them today. Simple reason for that is because there were 8 games the weekend, and I have a review of 7 of those 8. There would have been 8 except for 2 of the games are on at the same time, so we didn't get to cover Castres versus Benetton. But yeah, normally I say I'm not going to go too long, but I'm honestly not going to go too long. And this one is just going to be the results of the games, my impression of each of the teams, and then we'll have a look at the draw for the next round. So we're not going to go into who scored what tries and that kind of thing the way we normally would. So we're going to start with the Friday night game, and that was Northampton Saints 46, ASM Clermont Auvergne 24. So Clermont actually did score first in this one, but then Saints got themselves back in front, and it a fairly healthy lead, 27-10 by half time, and not really struggling after that. Saints, they made the semi-finals last year, and even though domestically they're struggling a little bit, they're still, the European form is good, and they're one of those teams that they're always up for a Champions Cup game, or like the old Heineken Cup as well. Like they're, one of the big teams in that for many, many years, and they're still kind of there in Europe as well. And the only English team to make the quarterfinals as well. So fair play to them for that, and the work that they put in the pool stages really helped them in that regard, getting the home draw. Clermont, they did get that early score. They are a team that I have a lot of respect for because of their history in this competition, because that they never give up. Even in this game, they obviously had lost, but they still didn't give up. There was none of these kind of head down, let the score blow out kind of histrionics from them. And even though they had an away game, they still picked a very strong team as well to send. And unfortunately for them, they'd never won the competition. But I think in terms of the how seriously they take the competition, I think a lot of fans, serious fans of this competition, stretching back to the glory days of the Heineken Cup, would have a special place in the heart for Clermont as well, just because of that. The fact that you always know that they're going to treat the opposition with respect and the competition with respect as well. But yeah, Northampton through first team through on Friday to the quarterfinals, 46-24. Okay, next then we have RC Toulon versus Saracens. So in this one, it was kind of a weird one because Toulon started the better of the two teams. They got a bit of a lead. Then Saracens came back at them and they took the lead, and they had like a 22-point lead or something like that at the start, or like not at the start, at one point, and then Toulon just clicked, and then it was like a 52-point turnaround, I think, in the end, right? 22 points behind, and then they won by 30 points in the end. So and I think Saracens, the one regret they'll have, having saw how things went, because Saracens sent like a weakened team. They left a lot of their England stars back home. There were still some, internationals, former internationals, etc., in the team that they sent, but mixed with some younger players. And it was really the bench that was the problem, right? That, they even said it in commentary. If they brought the likes of Itoje, etc., and the rest of their England players, and had them on the bench even rather than starting, they might have been able to come on and steer Saracens home, because it was when the two benches come on that Toulon really started taking control of the game. And then, in the end, 72 points to 42. I think was there 16 tries in the game or something like that? Or was it even more? I think it may have been 16 though. But yeah, Toulon, in the end running out easy winners, but it was back and forth early on in the game. But yeah, as soon as they went to the bench, Toulon just had too much for Saracens. So final score was Toulon 72, Saracens 42. Next then, we had Leinster Rugby 62, Harlequins 0 at Croke Park. So, Leinster just in control, really. Like Harlequins, they had like a period at the start where they were looking a bit dangerous, but they couldn't score. But Leinster, taking their points, they didn't have to go to top gear in this game, and there were like points where they were a little bit, scrappy, etc. But there were a few times where they just turned on, and especially in the second half where the handling, like they were playing flat right in front of the Harlequins defence that was coming up on them, but the tip-on passes, the handling, etc., the speed that they moved the ball in front of Harlequins couldn't get near them at times, and then just being able to finish things as well. So very good performance, I think, from Leinster, even though not their best. And it's one of these as well where people will think, is that really good preparation for Leinster for a quarter final? But I think a lot of that is people come back to with hindsight, right? That there are basically like four scenarios for a team, right? If a team wins well, like this one, 62-0, right? And then they go on to the next round and they lose, then people will say, well, it's because they weren't battle hardened, they weren't properly tested in the first, in the last round, right? If the same scenario happens, except they win comfortably and then go on to win, they'll say, oh, they were just full of confidence from the win the previous week, and that's that kind of led into them winning the next week, if you like. Then if you have a team that like it was in a battle and just about won, or they're made to fight for most of the game and then kind of pulled away in the end, and then they go in and they win, then teams say, yep, they went through the battle, they're battle hardened, and that's why they won. If the same scenario again, they win a tight one and then they go into the next week and they lose, then it's because they put so much effort into that performance the previous week, and that's why they lost. And so with stuff like this, it's I think it's going to be that kind of thing. Like if Leinster go on and win in the quarterfinal, it's going to be because they were full of confidence, and if they lose, it's going to be because they weren't tested in this one, and that's just how these things go, But nobody is predicting the results for next week one way or the other on the basis of that. It's only going to be afterwards, like that we'll all be, we'll all get this huge wisdom about what actually the reason for a loss or for a win. But yeah, Harlequins, for them, getting nilled in a quarterfinal and conceding 62 points, not great for them. But the thing is with Leinster is that, they come across these teams especially from the Premiership, that are all about attack and very little on defence. And Leinster's, performance, they have a very good attack, but their performances are built on defence, and their defence is, for the most part, something that these type of Premiership teams, not all Premiership teams. Like I'm talking about the likes of Harlequins, played Bath earlier on the season, and then Bristol as well. Those kind of teams where it's all on attack and there's very little focus on defence. Even though like the defence coach will say that's not true, but the kind of evidence is there. I think when you look at games like this, but when they come up against a team like Leinster, Leinster's defence can handle their attack, and then Leinster then have it. They have that ruthlessness in attack themselves to be able to then put points on, and it seems to happen a lot for Leinster, and kind of not really surprised, but like by them winning so easily in this one. Not that I was predicting that they would, but you could. Again, I guess you might say it's hindsight again, right? But you can look at the other games as well that they play against teams where they're all about attack. Leinster struggle against teams that have, first of all, can get at them at the breakdown, the set piece, and have like that power to win collisions as well. That's when Leinster struggle. They don't really struggle when teams come to just throw the ball around. Like even teams that do throw the ball around, the likes of Bordeaux or Toulouse, they do that because they have packs who have that power as well. So they have other strings to their bows. They're not kind of one-trick ponies. And yeah, so like decent win for Leinster, 62, Harlequins 0 in that one, and on to the quarterfinals they go. Then next we had the team, or the game that was on at the same time that I didn't get to cover, and that was Castres Olympique 39, Benetton Rugby 37. Now, I didn't expect Benetton to be as competitive in this one as they were. Like they ran Castres very, very close in this one, and Castres, right to death, scored a try to even things up at 37 all, and then landed a conversion to win it. So Benetton came very close to actually winning away from home in a round of 16. And when you look at, I think the last two seasons in the round of 16, they've been all home wins. So that's, full credit to them. They came so close. It would have been absolutely brilliant to have another URC team going through to the quarterfinals as well, but wasn't to be. But, fair play as well to Castres, that they were able to pull it out the bag in the end there. So, definitely, one of the games of the round. I think, and I'm sorry that I missed it, to watching it full. Like I got to see some of the highlights from it, but I'm not going to cover a game based on highlights. I'll talk about it on here, but I'm not going to, do a full review of a game if I haven't actually watched it in full. And that was somebody was asking me about, was I going to cover Connacht? And because I didn't get to watch it live and in full, I couldn't do that. But next weekend, I'm going to be covering hopefully all of the games, depending on, I don't know why, like there's 8 games. I hope next week none of the games are on at the same time. So we'll have to see what happens with that. But yeah, Castres through, Castres 39, Benetton 37. Next then we had, for me, the tie of the round is why I'm wearing the Munster jersey as well. So La Rochelle 24, Munster 25. So, this one back and forth all the way through the game. And there was a pivotal period in the game where, La Rochelle, they sucked in the Munster defence on the right-hand side, and they had tons of space out on the left. They move it out to Teddy Thomas, and all he has to do is just run it in the corner, and it's a try. And La Rochelle are in control of the game then. Instead, for whatever reason, only he knows, he decides he's going to cut back inside and try and beat like 2 or 3 Munster defenders with his footwork, and Tyke Byrne gets a tap tackle on him, and then the chance is gone. And then Munster then go down the other end and they score themselves. And that was turned out like to be the winning of the game, really. Like that turn around there. Like La Rochelle got themselves back within a point with, a penalty try in the last couple of minutes. But even as they were, we saw, like, what was it? Was it the 2 seasons ago, 3 seasons ago, where they got a penalty right? I think it was 3 seasons ago, right? They got a penalty right at the end to beat Leinster. And in that one, there was an inevitability about it that they were carrying with such ferocity, and you could see Leinster were really hanging on and struggling, and then they forced the penalty. This one, not the case. They looked like they were desperate, trying to get in position for, to get a penalty or get a try to win it. And nobody was kind of dropping back into the pocket or anything, looking for a drop goal. And you look on the other side where you had Jack Crowley had a fantastic game for Munster, and he stepped up. He dropped a goal, and he put his team in the right places. He kicked his goals as well. So excellent performance from him and from Munster. And I think it was something this competition needed, because we're so used to now round of 16. All the home teams are going to win. If you predict that, you're going to be right. Apparently, like 2 seasons out of 3, based on the first 3 seasons of this kind of format. And then, like last season, the only away victory we had last season was a quarterfinal. Harlequins beating Bordeaux 42 points to 41 away from home. That's the only one we've had last season. So, for Munster to do it in this one, very special. And Munster, although I'm a Leinster fan, I always say it, like, I support all the other Irish provinces as well. I'm not someone who begrudges or takes, takes pleasure in, if the other provinces are doing badly and that kind of stuff. I want all the Irish provinces to do well, even if that means that, Leinster maybe aren't going to be as successful as they have been, like, well, not in the last 3 years, obviously, but they had been, in recent kind of the last decade or so, that I want to see all of them doing well, because it's good for, not only is it good for the Irish national team, it's good for rugby in Ireland as a whole. You want all those teams doing well. You want kids in Munster to see Munster doing well and to want to play rugby rather than going to another sport. You want to see the same happening Connacht and up in Ulster as well, and obviously in Leinster too. So, from that point of view, brilliant as well. But for the competition as well, I think a lot of neutrals would have seen this as a fantastic result too. Like the champions, from 2 seasons ago and 3 seasons ago, Munster, a team who before, were one of the kings of Europe. They've kind of fallen, this crown slipped a little bit on that domestically, like they won the league 2 seasons ago, but they haven't really, produced anything in European knockout, for a long period. So this is a fantastic result for them, but also again, I think for the wider competition as well, just showing that it is possible to go away and to win. And even at, La Rochelle not having, the greatest season themselves, but still being able to do that and pull it off, because we've seen it, we saw it on Friday night with Northampton, a team who are domestically aren't doing great, but they produce in Europe. And, La Rochelle, generally they produce in Europe as well. So brilliant for Munster. And then just the celebrations afterwards as well, massive travelling support from them, players, ex-players all getting involved, and it's a real G up for them. And it is great to see, and I think we need to see more of that in the competition as well. It's it just makes it makes it feel less of a formality when we go into the round of 16. Because the old Heineken Cup, we always had that rule of thumb where one out of 4 away quarterfinals would be won by the away team, and it happened almost every year as well. And in this one, as I said, it was basically 100% homers for the round of 16 for the last few years. So to see a team go away and do that, and also see Benetton go away and almost pull it off too, it just shows that there is hope there, that teams don't have to decide that, oh, we got an away fixture in the round of 16, so we're not even going to try. We're not going to send a decent team. We're going to concentrate on the league, and we're going to send whoever over, which unfortunately, some of the teams have done last year and this year as well. So La Rochelle 24, Munster 25. It is kind of sad to see La Rochelle going out as well, because they've been a breath of fresh air, I think, for the competition. But good, as I said, to see that for Munster and for the competition as well. Next game then is Glasgow Warriors 43, Leicester Tigers 19. So Leicester, I think did they open the scoring in this one? I think they might have done, but then Glasgow just battered them. It doesn't look like it on the scoreline, but Glasgow could have been up in the 60s. But first half, very wasteful with the chance that they had, like really struggling to get over and score. But then in the second half, then they kind of sort things out and they pulled away and they won comfortably in the end. But yeah, that scoreline, Glasgow should maybe be 63 rather than 43. And, Leicester, kind of, they really struggled with Glasgow's play. They didn't offer, in the first half again, early try, didn't offer anything for the rest of the half, just defending. And then, after that, they, when by the time they scored their scores, like Glasgow already had things pretty much wrapped up. So no real kind of comeback on the cards or anything like that. And Glasgow very comfortable, but Glasgow, it feels like they are progressing, and it's great to see. That last year they got over that whole mental thing of being able to deliver in big games in a big way. All the way through to lifting the URC title. Having to go away to tough places and win in semi-finals and final as well, to get there. So brilliant stuff from them last year, and it looks like they're building on it this year, because Glasgow, they've full of talent, but generally teams would have saw them if they got out of the pool stages, because sometimes they didn't, and sometimes they didn't even qualify for this competition, because themselves in Edinburgh for a few years are kind of swapping for a spot. But I think for a while Glasgow were seen as a bit of a soft touch, and if you had to go away in around a 16 or a quarter final, then Glasgow would have been, teams would think, oh, we have a chance here. They don't turn up sometimes on big occasions, and yeah, we can get at them, we can beat them. But it feels like, since last year, they really have taken that step. So it's great to see them progressing here through to the quarterfinals. Unfortunately for me, they're playing my own Leinster, so that's going to be a hell of a game, I think, between those two. And Glasgow will have memories of not turning up against Leinster, on previous occasions as well. So, but again, I think to have that little bit more in terms of mental toughness, that means that it's going to be a very tough game for both teams next week. And I think that's at the Aviva. But yeah, this one, Glasgow 43, Leicester 19. Okay, on to the Sunday games. So then we had Bordeaux-Begles 43, Ulster 31. So, Bordeaux start off and basically a perfect start, right? 21 points to 0. And we have Pinot. Pinot is he's just a crazy talented player. I know, like this year in France, it's been all about BLBRE, his mate there on the other wing, who wasn't isn't available at the moment, but Pinot he's been doing it for years, and he's absolute class because the guy, like the try, one of the tries he scored, Joe Carby goes out to the wing, gives it to who was it, one of the centres, who passed it to Pinot, so he's just about on, like, in his own half or around about halfway. And then he just decides, yeah, I'm going to go this way, and then I'm going to, there's a guy in front of me, okay, just take a little step and then go past him. It's crazy because you look at him and you look at his legs and you think, he's not jogging, like, but he doesn't look like he's sprinting, but he's leaving guys for dead, like fast guys for dead, and just so easily, and he's just a fantastic player to watch. But yeah, Bordeaux get a decent lead, and then Ulster, fair play to Ulster because they've had a torrid few seasons. They actually produced a decent comeback, got themselves back into the game, and back within touch. But the problem they had was that they would get back in touch, and then Bordeaux would pull a little bit ahead, and Ulster would reel them in a little bit, and then they go ahead again, etc. So Ulster never really got themselves in a position where it felt like they were going to win the game, but they still made a fight of the game, and that's something that's really been missing with Ulster for a few seasons, where things go badly for this Ulster team, heads go down, and the score blows out. Not in this one though. They did actually dig in and produced a very good performance from them, and good to see young Jack Murphy there at 10 to kind of beginning to find his feet really at this level of rugby too. I think next season Ulster, they're going to be a different prospect. I still don't think that, don't be putting their names on trophies or anything like that, but they're going to, I think, be a bit of a tougher nut to crack next year compared to this year. But Bordeaux, fantastic team, and they're through now to the quarterfinals, and I think many people have them as the favourites this year as well, just because of that ability to they can beat you in multiple ways. It's not all about that star-studded backline. They have a very good pack as well, decent set piece too, and they were up against it at times against Ulster today, but they were able to kind of sort themselves out, and just keep them at arm's length through the game as well. Just it's sometimes it's the sign of a team who have that kind of championship or champion quality about them, that ability just to manage the game the way they did. But yeah, it was Bordeaux 43, Ulster 31. Okay, last game of the round of 16 then was Toulouse 38, Sale Sharks 15. So Toulouse actually, they score like in the first minute or something, right? And you're thinking, Sale are going to get absolutely thumped in this one. Then Sale go up the other end and they score. Then Sale are leading the game. And, the problem with Sale, like the Sale game was similar to the Munster game, where they had themselves in front. But for them, they couldn't add their scores, when they had them. And it was Toulouse then who got in and got their scores instead. And that was kind of the difference between the teams, right? Was that Toulouse were able to deliver, because at halftime, like, Sharks were winning 15 points to 10, but then Toulouse, second half, they got scores early. So it wasn't like, they were sweating it towards the end of the game. They got in, they got over like in the first couple of minutes, I think, of the second half. And then they didn't look back from there. They just kind of stretched out. and Sale then faded away. But, fair play to Sale that nobody gave them a chance going over there, and people were thinking, the last time an English team went to Toulouse at the end of the pool stages, Leicester, they got 80 points put on them. So people were probably, some people were thinking that, Sale might be in for a very torrid afternoon. Like, obviously not an enjoyable afternoon in the end for them, but they certainly can be, proud of the effort that they did put in, and it's something where, a team like Sale, who don't really have pedigree in this competition, as a group of players now, or even as a team kind of historically either, a game like this, even though they've lost it, can be something that really does kind of bring those players on, because they'll think, hang on, we went over there to Toulouse and we were winning at halftime, and, against a fantastic Toulouse side. Yes, no Dupont, but Entamac was brilliant. So was Ramos and a few others as well. But they'll be thinking, we went over there against a star-studded team, with tons of French internationals, internationals from other countries as well, like Blair Kinghorn. And we stood toe-to-toe with them for, or even shaded it for half of the game. And then it was only the second half then that they kind of took it away from us. That, if we could keep that going for a bit longer, maybe we could win those games. And sometimes it can really be that kind of thing that happens, a catalyst for a group of players when they just realize, hang on, we can produce at that level. And then it's just about finding whatever it was that they're able to do and reproducing, right? Kind of bottling the lightning, as it were. And sometimes teams can do it and they go on. And, we've seen it with other teams as well, where, they struggled, they couldn't get out of pool stages, and then suddenly they have one decent performance, and then the next year then they're in a semi-final or a final, and a few years later they're lifting the trophy. This is how those kind of journeys start, right? So, it'd be nice to see Sale coming on as well from that, because again, it'd be nice to see kind of, some of the English teams that aren't as fancied in this competition actually, joining the likes of Northampton. Northampton seem to be the team that are always there or thereabouts, even when, all the other teams kind of come and go, right, in recent years, where Northampton seem to always be there. But final score in this one, Toulouse 38, Sale 15. Okay, so we'll just quickly talk about the quarterfinal lineup. We won't go too much into it because there will be a preview of that later on in the week. But the first game is the Friday game, so it's Leinster versus Glasgow, two URC teams. First and second in the URC at the moment as well. And a lot of people think, oh, Leinster at home. Generally they beat Glasgow at home, but Glasgow beat Leinster. Where's it? In the RDS, I think, last year. So they know how to go to Dublin and win. So yeah, I think that's going to be a bit tighter than maybe people think. Next then is Bordeaux-Begles versus Munster. So, Munster pull off that amazing win against La Rochelle, and the reward is to go to the hot favourites for the title. But, they knew that anyway. They knew if they were going to go far in this competition, they're going to have to do it the hard way. So, going to be another, I think, interesting game too. I think, Munster will offer something different to Ulster as well. It's another Irish team for Bordeaux to face, but it'll be a different challenge for them as well. So another, I think, decent matchup there. Then on to the next game, it's Northampton Saints versus Castres Olympique. So Northampton, kind of like, again, the lone English team in this quarterfinals. But last year, they got to the semi-final. They went to Dublin to Croke Park. Leinster were beating them, and then they came back at them and they almost beat them right at the end. So a team, again, it doesn't matter how badly they're doing domestically. A team that produces in this competition, they're at home as well. So I think Castres just about got over the line against Benetton last time out, and Northampton are going to be a step up from that, I think, especially in this competition. So but again, you look at this, and again you look at it on paper and you think, yeah, if Castres turn up, this could be another interesting fixture. And that's what's great about it, is that all the games actually look genuinely close. Now, we could get the results and they won't be, but you could make arguments, I think, for any of the teams to win. Certainly, certain teams are definitely favourites, and big favourites as well, be at home. But you do know that the opposition, if they turn up, could really make life awkward for them and could even knock them over. And then the final game then is Toulon versus Toulouse. So, Toulon is kind of a weird one for them because haven't lost at home all season in the Stade Félix Mayol, but everyone's thinking Toulouse are going to win it because Toulouse are the defending champions, and they just look so good. And the only reason they didn't, the only reason they're not kind of at home in this quarterfinal is because they were in the same pool as Bordeaux, who they didn't get to play against. And both of them won all of their games, and it's only because Bordeaux got an extra bonus point. So basically that game away to the Sharks, where they won 20 points to 8 and didn't get a bonus point, is the reason why they're going away in a quarter-final. But they had a much better performance in the pool than Toulon did. So it's going to be an interesting one, I think, this one. And I think it's definitely going to be close. And as I said, like it's probably the one that you look at out of the 4 games, and you think that the away side are probably the favourites for. But again, we'll talk about all of that in more detail later on in the week when we do our preview. Tomorrow we're going to have the review of the Challenge Cup stuff as well. I wanted to do it today, but work has been busy. I have a busy day at work tomorrow as well, but I will find time to put a video up on that. But it will be kind of similar to this one, where we're just going through the results and not really talking about incidents from games too much and stuff like that. But hope you're enjoying it anyway. For me, it's been a fantastic week of rugby, and I'm just looking forward to even more next week.